The November elections are going to be here before we know it, and I cannot wait because I am so over all the Twitter feeds, all the news that is coming across when we are talking about the Democrats, mainstream media working together to sell the many lies that they make up about Donald Trump. Now, this first skit that I'm going to talk about, it was hilarious because Nancy Pelosi definitely did not see this coming. But in this clip right here, she pretty much tries saying how Trump lost the most jobs of any president in the history of the United States when there was something that she left out. Let's check out that clip right now.
And Joe Biden is doing that, created 9 million jobs in his term in office. Donald Trump has the worst record of job loss of any president. So we just have to make sure people know.
That was a global pandemic.
He had the worst record of any president. We've had other concerns in our country. If you want to be an apologist for Donald Trump, that may be your role, but it ain't mine. And
the look on her face is, it's just magical. Just seeing that because Nancy Pelosi isn't used to the mainstream media actually question her on some logic when we are talking about these things that they consistently bring forward, talking about Trump's record. We all knew that in 2020, we had a pandemic. They told us to stay home. Lots of Americans lost their jobs. But they are running on this as if Trump was running a bad economy, and that is why he is the worst president when we are talking about these job losses. Let's break into this though, because I think the fairest way to go about this is to gauge Trump's record going up to the pandemic. And then we'll also compare that to where Biden's at right now. So I'm going to pop up this chart right now so you can kind of look at where right before the pandemic happened. So we're looking at February of 2020. The unemployment rate was at 3.5%. After the pandemic, after those first few months of the lockdowns, you can see how it spiked all the way up to 14.8%. And then you can see how it started to go down. Now, Biden always claiming how he has the best economy, that he has created the most jobs of any other president. He's setting records, right, for bringing in so many jobs back to the United States. He's basing a lot of that off the fact of, he's basing a lot of his numbers off of the people who came back to work from COVID, and he's like, oh, I did that. I'm the one who did that. No, dude, you weren't the one who did it. That's just people who are wanting to get back to work after the lockdowns, after that whole pandemic that we experienced across the world. So Biden, as of today, actually, so this is March of 2024 numbers. The unemployment rate is at 3.8%. Now, there was one point, I can't quite remember if it was last year or in 2022, where he dipped down to 3.4%, and that's pretty much the lowest that he got. So one time, he brought it all the way down to the 3.4%. You can say, okay, cool, that's 0.1% lower than what Trump's was at right before the pandemic. But right now he's sitting right at 3.8%. And guess what? Re-election is coming up. Where Trump's trend was going down, Biden's trend is going up. This one right here, it's becoming laughable because they are consistently repeating the fact that Trump said that there's going to be a bloodbath, January 6th all over again if he does not get elected come this November. This was taken such out of context, and the fact that they're consistently repeating it, hoping that Americans believe that that's what Trump was saying, when really he was talking about the auto industry. All you have to do is watch the full clip because there's so many media companies out there who just put in that one portion, and they forgot to put the full context on what he was talking about when he was discussing the bloodbath. So again, let's look at this clip and see how the Democrats are twisting this into something that it really is not. Real quick, guys, I will get back into this conversation, but first things first, if you do love this content or if you do want to follow along, kind of see what I ramble about in any future events to come, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, maybe give me a thumbs up, notification bell, that way you're notified every single time that I put out a new video. Let's get back to this topic right now.
Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories of...
Now, clearly, when you put that full context into view, you see that he was talking about there being a bloodbath for the auto industry in the United States because China's going to be stealing a lot of it with those manufacturers down in Mexico. But of course, the media and Biden are consistently throwing up headlines. Biden's talking about it all over again where, Trump said there's going to be a bloodbath. He just did it at the Correspondents' Dinner.
He tells supporters he is their revenge and retribution. When in God's name have you heard of another president say something like that? And he promised a bloodbath when he loses again. We have to take this seriously.
Again, Biden is taking this so out of context, and anyone with a brain who went and looked at the entire clip of what Trump was talking about would know that he was referencing the auto industry. Now that we're on the Correspondents' Dinner, outside of all the other whoppers that Biden decided to tell, is he says how Trump says he's going to be a dictator on day one.
The defeated former president has made no secret of his attack on our democracy. He said he wants to be a dictator on day one, and so much more.
Okay, let's see the full context on what he actually said.
Under no circumstances, you are promising America tonight, you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
for?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border, and I want to drill.
That's not retribution. I'm going to be, he keeps, we love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator.
As you can see, what he is talking about is on day one, the main priorities that he is going to have if elected president of the United States for a second term is he wants to get energy prices down, and he wants to close that damn border that Biden did open up. And then he even mentions at the end of the clip, after that, I'm not a dictator. They are taking this so out of context, like so many other comments. And the most recent one is them talking about how Trump is completely fine with states monitoring pregnant women to make sure that they aren't having abortions, and they freaked out about it and they're writing articles about it. Now let's go ahead and look into the full context of that. I pulled the interview from Time magazine so we can see exactly what Trump said. The question that was asked was, do you think states should monitor women's pregnancies so they can know if they've gotten an abortion after the ban? And then Trump's response, I think they might do that. Again, you'll have to speak to the individual states. Look, Roe versus Wade was all about bringing it back to the states, and that was a legal, as well as possibly in the hearts of some, in the minds of some, a moral decision. But it was largely a legal decision. Every legal scholar, Democrat, Republican, and other wanted that issue back at the states. Roe versus Wade was always considered a very bad law. Very bad. It was a very bad issue from a legal standpoint. People were amazed it lasted as long as it did, and what I was able to do is through the choice of some very good people who frankly were very courageous, the justices it turned out to be, this is how our society was built, is that all of these issues are supposed to be on the states. You have a state like California, they're going to have a different mindset towards abortion as opposed to somewhere like Alabama, and that's fine. This should not be something that is regulated by the federal government. Now, if in the future they decide to come down and be like, all right, cool, at this point, this is murder, because that's something that Democrats won't make a stand on, is they will not make a stand on at what point are they willing to allow abortion up to. So those of you who want to challenge anyone on this, just ask them, like, are you okay with the day before the baby is born, a woman changing her mind, deciding to abort that baby one day before it is born? These lies, they're becoming so ridiculous, but the thing about it is you have news organizations out there like NPR who consistently lie, who tell a story but not the story. They create a narrative against Trump, and this is their main plan on how they think that they are going to win back in this November. Outside of, I'm sure it's going to be all kinds of different stuff going down. Who knows? We'll see what's going to happen. I'm not sitting here saying election denier or nothing like that. I'm just saying that there's some sketchy shit out there right now, especially with all these illegal immigrants that are coming over into our country. Going back to a video I made, I believe it was last week, talking about this, is the Democrats who are the most die-hard conservatives, the most die-hard Republicans, is when they do realize that they are being lied to by the Democrats and the media. This is why the media is losing so much trust from the American people, because we don't believe you. I don't care if it's Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, it doesn't matter. We do not believe you anymore because you are always creating this narrative. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle we are talking about. We are over it. Just give us the damn news. We're sick of the narratives. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I greatly appreciate it. Can you do me a huge favor if you love this content to follow along? Maybe give me a thumbs up on this video, and I'll see you on the next one.